All right, we're back with another episode of the Sab Powers podcast. Here today with fellow comedian, artist, also a ukulele player, Lacie. How's it going?
Good. I just hosted my first online art show.
Mm-hmm.
I sold over $1,000 in art.
Wow, that is awesome. That is so sick.
Like just originals. I didn't even
Damn.
count up what people ordered in prints because I was like, well, this is too much to deal with right now. So
That's
yeah,
amazing. I'm so happy for you. That's some of your art behind you, right?
yeah. Like I've done 35 pieces since the quarantine started. So
Damn. How much do you sell them each for, like, around? Are they all different, or?
so the smallest is 11 by 14,
Mm-hmm.
and it's $100.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, my aunt paints. That's like mostly my aunt's paintings behind me.
Rad. Cool.
Yeah, same thing. It's like for one like this big, it's like $100.
Yeah,
That's much
exactly.
better. Hmm.
Exactly. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, more people should display art. Like my house is like covered in art, but you know, you go to other people's houses and it's like the walls are just boring, I feel like a lot of the time.
Totally. But I also think like there's been a big shift in what art is to people.
Hmm.
I mean, art used to be for the rich. Like maybe our grandparents' generation,
Hmm.
and then our parents' generation, the hippies. Everyone loves art. Everyone loves fun stuff. And our generation, especially with the internet, I find that it's made art more accessible. We can make prints, you can make copies, you can turn it into t-shirts, hats, whatever. So I definitely see like a big upswing in art as a thing that all people can enjoy.
Hmm.
Um, I know with this show, it was interesting because I had a lot of people say you should auction stuff off. I had one piece that people were literally fighting over in comments.
Wow.
And I just went, look, like I appreciate it, but I need to figure out a way to do this fairly because, yeah, I mean, an auction would be great. More money in my pocket would be great, but I don't really do money, or I don't do art to get rich. I do art because it makes me happy.
Hmm.
And I'd rather know that the artwork goes to someone that really loves it, as opposed to someone that just has the most amount of money to outbid everybody.
Right. So how'd you decide who got it? Just whoever asked first, or?
Yeah, so I just created a Facebook album and just posted everything and kept it private, and then told
Mhm.
everyone it goes live at noon, and if you're the first person to comment, you get the original, and if you're not, well, too friggin' bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Shout out like all your channels everywhere that you would like to get followers on for people to
So,
find your
I
stuff.
mean, if you check me on Instagram, it's Lacie VDub.
Hmm.
And my studio Instagram is Barracks by the Grand. That's more of like a family friendly, kid focused art Instagram. And then Lacie VDub on YouTube. And then you can kind of look up I'm really bad with YouTube still. I'm still learning. But
Hmm.
I keep everything under the umbrella of Lacie VDub. And then you can find, I do a kid friendly weekly post called Story Brainstorms, where I brainstorm a story with kids live on Facebook once a week. And then I write the story, break it into pages, and assign each page to a kid or their mom or their dad or whoever's watching. And
Hmm.
those people illustrate them over the course of a week and then send them back. And then
That's
I
awesome.
read the story with all the illustrations. So those go live Saturdays. And then I have Fast Forward Fridays where I do time lapse paintings. So a
Yeah, I
lot of
love
the art,
those. I love the time lapse paintings. Yeah.
yeah, all the stuff I did today, like it's great. I have weeks worth of content. It's just a matter of editing all of it. So
Awesome. I'll make sure I link your YouTube in the links. I'm doing that now because like I'm just starting, like you said, I have no idea what I'm doing with YouTube either. So it's like before when I was having people on, I didn't even put their channel in the description or anything, but I'm doing that now, so that's good.
yeah. I mean, it's been really inspiring to sort of experiment with all these different platforms and sort of reach in different ways that I usually haven't. I mean, normally I'm in my studio teaching, And then when I'm not teaching, I'm scheduling or planning or all of the other things. So with all of that shut down, I've had like a complete opportunity to just do whatever I want to experiment with or try with. And I really want to do some sort of podcast where I'm interacting with non-artists, but teaching them art.
Mm-hmm.
And just like talking about the struggle, and like, for example, it just being like, so hey Sab, what do you want to learn to draw today? And then
That'd be
just like
awesome. Yeah.
having that base the subject of the conversation, because it's a struggle, but it's a hilarious struggle most of the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's actually a great idea because like I've painted like a bit in my life and tried, but I've never naturally like been talented at it. But like my aunt, like she's always been awesome, like a great friend of mine. So like when she would like give me advice and stuff, like just like she would never like do it for me, but she would just tell me what to do and my stuff came out so much better. Like I
Oh my God.
remember,
So
go ahead.
she's a great teacher. One of
Yeah,
my favorite thing, or my least favorite things about a teacher is a teacher that takes your pencil or your paintbrush out of your
right.
hand. It
Yeah.
makes you hurt somebody.
Well, then the Zoom podcast would be perfect. Like if we were to do something like that, like if, you don't even have that option, right? Even if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
hmm But yeah, I remember she even coached me through like a graffiti. I got to like my parents let me tag the back of our shed at the old house, and it came out looking so awesome. And it was there for like 5 years.
Man, your aunt sounds awesome.
Yeah, she's super cool. Yeah, you guys would love each other. Yeah, because like she used to do like she still does tons of art stuff, but she used to like have like art like school things or whatever. Like she'd have like 10 students at a time or whatever, like an art class deal. It was
Yeah, I mean, it's a very lucrative way to make money as an artist.
cool.
I mean, I think this is my 6th year. I'm going into my 6th year as being just a full-time artist. And originally when I started, I was like, I quit my real job and I'm just going to do art 40 hours a week. And I coasted through that for, I think, like 6 months. And it was good and I had cash. And then I had this opportunity to teach. And then it was like just mind blowing. Because really it's just, if you can get a class full, it's highly lucrative. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, I prefer teaching kids because kids
hmm
are way more open-minded, which is why I think doing sort of a podcast teaching adults would be hilarious, because adults suck.
Yeah,
You
I
know, like,
definitely want on. You gotta put me on an
yeah,
episode.
for sure. I mean, I always tell, like when I teach a class, I always start with the beginning with like this pep talk. But when I teach a pep talk to kids, it's so much different than adults. With kids, it's like mistakes are okay, and if you need help, say so, and otherwise, no big deal.
hmm
And with adults, I literally say that you're going to stress out over the first mark you make on the canvas and continue to stress out for the next 2 hours. But this is a 2-hour class and your painting is going to be ugly for at least the next 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, because we're so used to just, this is what I want, and it's not what I see yet, but art is a process. So, you know, you really just have to keep working on it. And I always tell people it's not finished till you like it. And if you don't like it, keep working on it. And if you continue to work at it and you still hate it, just paint it over. Start over again.
That's funny. That's true. It's like I had a painting that I did when I was like 13, and I loved everything about it. It was like this owl in a forest, right? And the face of the owl looks incredible, but like the wing, it was just the wing always bugged me for like 15 years or something before I decided to actually just fix it. I was like, I don't even care. It's an old painting I did as a kid, and I fixed the wing, and I like it so much better now. I wish I took like a before and after picture. I didn't think of doing that, but yeah.
Yeah. I have a group of students. They started out with me 6 years ago as like 6 and 7-year-olds, and now they're hitting like their teens. They're 13, 14. A lot of them are really into anime and manga. And we do a class every summer. It's like a week-long intensive program for kids ages 10 and up, where it's you're coming in with a professional anime and manga artist and learning everything. So we've been running it. It would have been the 3rd season this year. one of the things the teacher does is make the kids pick a piece of artwork they did a year before and
Mhm.
redo it, just to see how their
Oh,
skills have developed.
yeah.
So I have one student, she has one sketchbook just dedicated to this one picture. And every year on the same day, she redoes the picture, and you see this interesting progress of how her skills have changed. But it's really interesting to see.
That's so cool. That's actually, I feel like everyone should do that. That's so awesome. Have you done
Yeah.
anything like that? Like, do you have a picture you tried like to do redo a year later?
I can't say I have, mostly because I'm really unorganized and my work is really scattered a lot of the time. Like, I have a library of sketchbooks, and every sketchbook has the year and some highlights of what's in it. So if I need to go back and check something, it's easy to sort of grab and look at. Um, but to open the books, I can look at it and see a picture that I used to love and used to be really proud of. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the nose, or look at the hands, or so I can see how things have changed, even though my perspective at the time was like, this is the best piece of art I've ever made. I love it. But it changes, right? So
Hmm.
that's
That's how
it.
I feel like with watching myself do like some of my old comedy videos. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, I'm so much different now, or I would have been if we're still allowed to do it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially because I think the first time I did stand up, I think it's still floating around on YouTube. Because it was at the Vapor Lounge. And it was
Same.
just like, yeah. And Levi was just like, well, here's the mic, go for it. And it's
Yeah.
still up there. And it's just like, some things are the same, but it's so cringy. It's so cringy. You're just like, oh man, like everyone just sat there and let me do that. You're supposed to be my friends. But hey,
It's a
they're
good
still my
thing they
friends. So I
did,
guess
right?
it's still good.
Yeah, and you're still doing comedy, which is awesome, or you were before this, right? You were running your own
Right?
show
Hey,
as well, right?
yeah, yeah, we're still running
Combo.
the show every month. And I mean, it was very much an experiment, but I mean, we have 60 people tuning in every episode. So it's good.
Oh, you do it on Zoom now.
No, we do it on Facebook.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
How'd
So
I miss that?
the way we've organized it, the brewery that sponsors and hosts the event, just wants to keep people engaged. So we host it on Facebook, and I just drop a donation link, and people send donations electronically, and we just go live for an hour and a half or so, or however long it takes for us to get through everything. I mean, the beginning of this month was our 2-year anniversary, so that was pretty cool to be able to do it. It's not nearly as cool as being able to have a giant party in a brewery full of everybody, but
Yeah, yeah.
being able to do it at home in my underwear is kind of fun too. So
Yeah. Do you miss like doing comedy live?
yes, I mean, I'm missing because it killed my ability to do comedy, but I mean, I was doing improv regularly too with Improv Niagara.
Hmm.
Um, and I missed that a lot. Like, we had to cancel our 2-year anniversary, which was going to be a big show, but we've moved to doing some online stuff. So we do some online jams, and we've been doing like a serial space opera once a week, but I just haven't really been able to be engaged because it's not the same. I mean, I find
Hmm.
improv is really physical, and I really like the socializing of it, and sitting on my couch in front of a camera isn't the same. So I really, really, really miss the improv performance stuff.
I was actually like just talking to a guy from London yesterday, and he runs a show there, and every show at the end, so as the headliner, instead of having a headliner, he'd have all the comedians get back on stage and do improv together. How crazy is that?
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, he said it was awesome. Like he said, like at the beginning it was a little bit rough. Like he had a couple problems, but then like they've been doing that same thing for years now, and he said it's great. And I was like, that's
Oh
such a
wow.
cool idea. Like I've never even like it made me think of you and like your improv stuff right away. I was like, man, Lacie would love this.
The probably the coolest event, I think it happened, it seems so long ago. I think it was in January. I don't know. Um, there's a comedian and improv actor in Toronto that hosts an event called Stupid Fancy.
Hmm.
And the concept is he handpicks an artist, that sends him a secret album of their artwork. It could be anything. So he takes that and then gets a whole selection of stand-up comedians or improv artists on the lineup. And then, so for example, Sab, if you were the person, you'd come up on stage and the host would click the clicker and put up a picture, and you get to ad-lib and improv jokes inspired by this picture for like 6 to 7 minutes.
That's awesome. That's crazy. I would love to like go to that show, but I'd be so afraid like to do it, right? Like you never know like if you're good at that stuff, but I've never done improv live before, right? I've never even really done crowd work. It's like it's
No, you know what
scary
though?
to
A
jump
lot of
into.
it is just like being comfortable saying what's on your mind, because I mean, I gave a really weird assortment of stuff, and I mean, I had some artists come up and like dive right into like a full-blown critique, and it was hilarious. But then you have other artists that step up, look at the artwork and go, I don't understand what this is at all. And then that inspires this, or you know, maybe it's a picture of something that reminds you of something. So each artist and each performer totally approached it with a different energy. And then the host does something interesting. He has a bowl of fortune cookies. So if you're stumped and you aren't sure what to say, or you've said everything you wanted to say but you still got time, you can crack open a fortune cookie and try to work off whatever the fortune cookie says.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. So have you done that show, or have you like seen it, or?
So I've seen it once, only because I was the guest artist.
Oh, so they made fun of or like made a bit about one
Yeah.
of your paintings. That's awesome. How'd it go? Like, did you like what the comedian said or whatever?
Yes, it was absolutely hilarious. I mean, I don't get offended by people's interpretation of my art.
Hmm.
I make enough of it, and I've been doing this long enough that either you like it or you don't, and either way, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So it was really interesting because like the performers were all very, very kind. But it's just funny because it's really just seeing inside their minds and what these images sort of bring to their minds. So it was very entertaining. And the host, he performs the entire show in a giant satin house coat. So yeah, it's stupid fancy. So if you ever get a chance, stupid fancy, it's very funny. It's at Comedy Bar. They do it at Comedy Bar.
That's awesome. I've been to Comedy Bar once, and it was great. It was like it was another weird show like that had like a weird spin on it. It was so like they had a comedian go do their bit, and they have three comedians sitting on the stage, right? And then they write jokes about them as they're performing or whatever, and then the host reads those jokes like in between the comics, right? So after, and then it's like if something's really good, he'd pin it on the wall, and then if something's really bad, he'd just like throw it away.
That's awesome. That's
Hmm.
awesome. I
It
think
was cool actually.
was it Sick Kids for Sick Kids last year, and they had the improv joke competition. I
Yeah, it
thought that was
wasn't the
so
one this
fun.
year. Yeah, it was last year. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
fun. The one
yeah.
this year sucked. It was like
Mm.
it was at Willie John's instead of Showtime, and like it was just like one of those times where it's like a rowdy crowd where they're all just drinking and partying, and there was bands and comedians, so it's like they're all drinking, party, and listen to a band, and then they throw in a comedian. They don't want to stop talking, you know. They just keep talking, and I was like
Yeah, I
yelling,
guess.
calling them names and stuff. It was horrible.
Yeah, 3 years ago, it was at 544 on Queen Street in Niagara Falls,
Hmm.
whatever that event space was, and it was very similar. I mean, it was just like comedians breaking up bands and everyone's drinking, and then it's like, here's a wireless microphone, feel free to wander around the crowd. So it's like, here I am doing my dirty dick jokes, like face to face with little old ladies and their
Oh my
husbands, and
god.
like in a very good sports about it, but like it was just like, oh my god, this is bizarre. This
That's
is bizarre,
hilarious
but
that you
it was a
decided
fun
to.
show.
Yeah, yeah, that's hilarious. You decided to actually wander the crowd. I probably would have just still stayed on the stage, even with a wireless mic. It's like, what am I, like Taylor Grant? You know, he's gonna like go and climb on.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all about get up in your face. That's cool with me. So
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I asked this to everyone, so I feel like I should ask you too. What are your thoughts on ghosts? Do you believe in ghosts?
uh weird. I've had this conversation. I've heard so many like interesting stories, and I've never personally experienced anything too crazy. I used to have a studio in St. Catharines, and one of the other artists in the space, I think he was just trying to scare me out of the space. But he used to tell me that there was a ghost. And then the one day I was standing at the top of the stairs, looking down the stairs, and I thought he was behind me. Like, you know that heat when someone's standing close behind you? And I like turned around to be like, what the fuck are you doing in my space? And no one was there.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, what the hell? And he was like, what? And I was like, were you just behind me? He's like, no, I wasn't anywhere near you. And I was like, oh, that's weird, because I just had this weird feeling. He's like, yeah, that happens all the time when you stand at the top of the stairs. That's where the ghost likes to push people. And I'm just like, oh, okay, cool.
Wow. Is there like a vent? Was there a vent nearby, or did you like?
No, like it wasn't anything that I was like, you're up to something. It was just a very bizarre feeling I've never experienced.
That's strange. Yeah.
I've heard my fair share of stories, you know, like my fair share. But I don't know.
Me too. It seems like a lot of people have stories. Like I've done this with so many people now, and it's like I feel like 90% of the people I have on are like, yes, I believe in ghosts.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in high school, my best friend had do you know what like a schnauzer is? Like the dog?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you ever heard of a giant German schnauzer?
No.
Okay, so they're basically a Scotty dog, but they're the size of a Great Dane.
That's crazy.
So this thing was a chill dog, but every now and again it would freak out, sit at the end of the hallway, stare, and bark like crazy. And her little sister was like 12 or 13 at the time, and she had this boyfriend, and the boyfriend swore there was this black form petting the dog.
Wow.
And it was like, well, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And then there was like a whole summer of like these really bizarre things in her house, but I never witnessed anything. I just like heard about all these ridiculous stories. So I don't know.
Yeah, like I feel like maybe animals can like sense stuff that we can't sense, you know? So it might not necessarily been a ghost, but like some sort of thing that we're not aware of, right?
Yeah, I can 100% say like I believe in energy, and I believe in different awarenesses, for lack of a better word. And I'm going to say I'm probably not as aware as I'd like to be. So there's probably all sorts of things floating around. I mean, this building that I'm in, the studio, like our studio was built by the government, like basically when Canada became a country.
Wow, crazy. So like over 100 years ago, right?
Yeah, like over 150 years ago.
Right, yeah, I'm dumb. I don't know how old Canada is.
Yeah, so it's just really interesting because it's just like all these old buildings have really old stories, and who knows what's happened in them. And I mean, Richard's daughter jokes that we have an old safe because this building was the first post office ever built in the town. And like there's literally like 100-and-something-year-old safe built into the building in the back, and she says it's haunted. So I don't know.
That's crazy. You should paint a ghost. Have you ever painted a ghost before?
No, I haven't.
That'd be a good one, I think.
It's just a blank canvas.
Yeah. That's hilarious. What do you think of like 5G? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know. I want to say I don't know enough in the sense that there's so much floating out there in terms of information, and I don't know what's true.
Yeah.
And I live in a community where anything new is introduced and it must be bad. I mean, 10 years ago, they installed all these windmills in the community, and everyone was convinced that they were going to vibrate the ground and kill animals and give everyone headaches. And I don't know. And like, I will say that there's some really interesting things. In the winter, when the ground is solid and one of those things is spinning, you can feel it vibrating the entire ground.
Really? Wow, that's crazy. Interesting.
If you live close to one and it's spinning and you have like the shadow, it's like casting on your house. It's like a strobe light.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, it's just one of these technologies. I have one friend that's like huge into conspiracy theories and is like, this is literally really bad and is going to kill everybody. And I'm like, okay, I'll see what happens, you know?
Mhm.
I get headaches from the weather. So at this point, bring it on.
I had a guy on that was talking about how with 5G, long distance surgeries will be possible because the connection will be so fast that you could just have a robot doing like brain surgery, and you could have the brain surgeon like at his house or whatever, just doing it from home. Is that crazy?
Right. Like that sounds really cool. And that's
Hmm.
probably a great thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's interesting because like, so I'm in Dunnville,
Hmm.
which is only 45 minutes away from like Niagara Falls or Hamilton, but like we don't really have solid rural high-speed internet.
Hmm.
Most of the internet outside of like the main area of town is satellite internet. So if you get a storm, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's what happens to me too. Like, I just did the podcast with the guy from London, and like the weather was kind of bad here, and it was like kind of like cutting in and out a little bit, and there was lag and stuff. Like this is like it seems perfect, at least for me right now with you, where it's like there's
Yeah,
no lag. It's almost like we're just having a conversation in real life. Um,
yeah.
but I don't even know if I should like ask him to do it again or whatever, because it was only the first time I talked to him, and it's like he took like an hour out of his day for this. I don't know if I should just post it. I guess we'll see.
Right? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, it's interesting. Like there would be a lot of positives, like you said. There'd be a lot of positives with 5G. Um, I don't think I'm quite ready to jump on the internet and proclaim my conspiracies.
Yeah.
I am definitely conspiracy prone,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I mean, I heard all those rumors of everybody's locked up and they're just doing it to like install all the 5G stuff. And I was like, okay, that sounds a little crazy. And then like 5 weeks in, I go to Hamilton for the first time and it's like, whoa, like all the intersections have these crazy little like Wi-Fi signal box things. And it's like, okay,
Really?
well, those weren't there before.
Huh. Damn, that
So
is crazy. And like it is a crazy world out there. Like we don't really know what's going on, you know what I mean?
no, we don't. And I mean, and I say I'm conspiracy prone because I think of things as like layers, you know, and there are several different layers. I have no idea which layer we're living on. It's definitely
Hmm.
not the top layer that makes decisions. Um, I don't know. It's tough to sort of pick and choose what you want to learn because I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories out there.
Right. Yeah, like I got a cousin that believes in reptilians. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah, yeah.
Thinks Justin Bieber's a reptile. I don't
Mhm.
know. That's pretty out there for me. I'm, yeah.
Right? Ancient aliens, the answer to everything.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on aliens?
They're out there. I don't know what they are, but they're probably out there. I have this like weird, I'm going to admit it and it's going to go on the internet and everyone's going to know after this, but I have this like deep feeling like in my core that one day I will see Earth from space.
Wow, that's
Like,
awesome.
which is really bizarre. And like,
Hmm.
I don't mean like, oh, look at that cool picture. Like, it's like I will physically be in space someday. I don't know when. But at the same time, we were talking about all of this ridiculous stuff a couple weeks ago about how everything's changing and the threat of new world order, whatever that looks like. And I was like, wow, I hope I die before all of that kicks in. And I was like, wow, I've hit that point in my life where I'm like, ugh, the future is dark. Just let me die before all of that happens. Um,
Would you go to Mars if they said you can have a one-way trip to Mars?
maybe with the understanding that like uh I want unlimited art supplies.
Yeah, okay. So they're like we're sending 100,000 people to Mars to colonize it, and we need so many of this, so many of that, and we've chosen you as one of our artists, and you're like, yes, I'm down.
Yeah, I could do that. I could
Cool.
totally do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I mean, it's been really interesting through this whole quarantine thing, because so many people check up on me and just, you're really quiet on Facebook, or I don't hear from you very often, and I just want to make sure you're okay. And I'm like, I was made for this. Like, this is
Yeah.
my everyday life, is I'm just in my space, alone, quiet. The only difference is I don't have like a dozen children descending on the studio at a time being like, teach me how to paint a bunny.
That's
So like,
hilarious. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, for me, it's like, you want to send me to a new place and have me do things. So if I was like allowed to just go and just be an artist,
Hmm.
done deal. Done deal. If you were like, you can be an artist, but you have to spend 8 to 12 hours a day building the colony, I'd be like, call me when the colony is built.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, like, new places inspire me. I like, that's why I love travel. You know, it's
Hmm.
like a different part of my brain turns on. It's like I'm in a new place. I know nothing. I know no one. I don't even understand this language.
Hmm.
Let's figure our way out.
Yeah, I love
That was
traveling too.
really
It's
cool.
amazing. I would say, have you ever been to Thailand?
Not yet.
I would, if you ever get the chance, go. Like I've been all over the place, and that's the only place I want to go back to.
Really?
Yeah, it
What
was
was it?
incredible. So like, there is like crime and like bad stuff that goes on there, but I never experienced any of that. Like,
Yeah.
so I had a crazy adventure. I was supposed to stay there a month. I ended up wiping out on like we rented, like everything's super cheap there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If I were to go back, I would just bring money and the clothes on my back, like, and my clothes that I'm wearing, right? I wouldn't bring any clothes or anything like that. I would just buy everything down there. It was just such a crazy adventure, and like I could get into so much. I don't know how long you want to talk, but so anyways, we rented mopeds for the day, right? It was like $4.50 to rent a moped for 24
Yeah.
hours. So I did that, and I got in like this. I wiped out really hard around this bend, and it was kind of funny. It was like there was a big sign that said bike repair this way, and then there was a clinic right there, and I was like, oh my god, a bunch of people must wipe out right on this corner. But I wiped out hard in front of this huge like tour bus full of like other tourists, and they all came out and helped me and stuff. And then I went like back and to the like place we were staying. We each had our own like separate cabins, super cheap. Everything's super cheap down there. And like the lady that like owned the place just like took care of me. Like I didn't even give her any money or anything. She like bandaged me all up and stuff, and was super nice to me. And my buddy wanted to like keep adventuring, and I was like, yo, I'm like pretty badly injured. Like I wasn't that injured, but like I had like all these scrapes and stuff. So I just wanted to keep chilling. So he kept going and I stayed there. And I ended up like running out of money and stuff even, and like the people there were like so nice and like just helped me. Like I remember there was like this cab driver who gave me a free cab ride, and he let me use his cell phone to call my mom halfway around the world. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
he's probably like poor, struggling in his life way more than I am. But in that moment, he just like knew I needed help, and he was like a super nice guy. And yeah, it's just like it was weird. Like, and it's so hard to like talk to people. Everyone like barely speaks English if they do, but they're all like super nice down there. And it was just like everything's so cheap, and they like appreciated it so much. Like I would have like like a bomb ass breakfast for like under $1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I really got into it there.
No, no, I love it. I love it. It's funny, like, you should trade stories with my friend Kitty, because that sounds like a very similar story. She landed in Vietnam the week the outbreak hit in China.
Oh wow,
And
damn,
she lives in an off-grid house she built by herself in Thunder Bay. So she's like out of
wow.
touch with news. But same thing, she crashed her motorcycle like the first week, except it was bad. Like she had a concussion.
Mhm,
She messed up her knee. Before she knew what was happening, like a half a dozen strangers had collected all of her stuff off the street, moved her bike, all of her things off the street. There were like 2 people bandaging her arms and like helping her knee. And then another guy was like, I'm taking you to the hospital. And she's like, no, 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 no hospital. So like they take her to the hospital and she's like confused and in a lot
mhm,
of pain. And the doctor's like, calm down, take these pills and relax. You need to calm down first. So they give her opiates, because it's Vietnam. And then the doctor comes back. The doctor is 23 years old. He's wearing flip-flops, and he comes in wearing a guitar. And
Oh my
he's like,
God.
I'm just going to sing to you to help you relax. And then once you're calmed down, we'll take care of you. So they like bandage her up. Now she's high as shit because the main heads have kicked in. So they just let her nap. So she wakes up like 3 or 4 hours later. The guy that took her to the hospital is sitting beside her bed with like food. And in Vietnam, they don't have nurses or home care. And it's like, if you get hurt, you need a family member or a friend to be your nurse. And she didn't know anybody. So this guy for 2 weeks was her nurse. And she
Wow.
tried to pay him, and he refused to pay her, or he refused to take her money. But he showed up every day, twice a day, and made sure she had 2 meals a day, and would rebandage her knee and like check up on her. And the doctor took her cell phone. So like they were texting. She still gets text messages from the doctor to see how she is. But like she's been in Canada for almost 2 months now. Like,
Wow, that's incredible. That's such a great story. That's so beautiful.
right?
It's awesome.
Well, and it's interesting because you say like there's so much crime, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like people are so afraid by that idea of, oh, I don't want to travel because there's crime. I'm just going to go to a resort. And like last year we backpacked in Mexico for 3 weeks with nothing but a backpack. So like we landed and we just walked out of the airport.
Mhm.
And it was like, I don't really know where we're going. We just need a place to sleep. And it starts pouring, like tropical storm downpour. And we're walking 5 kilometers into we don't even know where. So at this point, I'm pissed. I'm like tired. I've been up since like 4 a.m. I'm friggin' soaking wet. I have no destination in mind. And we're just walking. So this guy pulls up and is like, get in, get in. And we were like, oh, okay. And it was a cab driver. So we like hop in the car, and like instantly any person is like, oh my God, you got into an unmarked car in Mexico.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So he was like, where are you guys going? And we were like, we don't know. We just landed. We just walked out of the airport. And he was like, well, I'll take you to a bus stop. So he like drove us like almost 10 kilometers to a bus stop. And then we tried to pay him, and he was like, no, no, no. I just want to know that you're safe and dry.
That's awesome.
You know, and there's so
Mhm.
many things like all these countries where people have it really tough. Like the idea of being kind to strangers and kind to people, because life is a struggle all by itself, is really beautiful. You know, you meet
Mhm.
some really amazing people that way, and you get a lot of perspective of how ridiculous we live.
Yeah, for sure. And like the media kind of portrays it like it's they only report the crime, right? But there really are like so many nice people out there that will help you, especially like if they see you need help, right?
Yeah, well, and it was interesting in Mexico, we had a discussion with someone, and they were saying that one of the reasons, especially like American media portrays Mexico as a dangerous and violent place, is because all the resorts are owned by American companies. And of
Mm.
course, they don't want you to go live and stay in an Airbnb or some authentic villa or a hostel, because that money stays in Mexico.
Mhm.
But when you're going and you're staying at these giant resorts, very little of that money is actually staying in Mexico and helping Mexico, because most of it's just going offshore to the States. So
Yeah, for sure. I went to Cuba, right? And I was staying in one of the resorts. Like I went with my family, and one of the guys that worked there, we ended up like hanging out with him. He was like, "You want to like come party or whatever?" And I was like, "Sure." He brought us back to his house, and he had like bars on his windows, and it was like in the ghetto or whatever, right? And his dad made us dinner and stuff. It was really cool. They had like the one light or whatever, and he had one thing that I thought was interesting is like they had different money for like the tourists, so we had to buy local money with our money.
oh
Right?
wow.
Yeah, so it's like he went to his friend and like had that would take the tourist money, and it's like it was so interesting. And yeah, it's like they would appreciate so much stuff. Like I remember I just left him like some shirts and stuff, and he was
Yeah.
just like so appreciative. And it's like we didn't like pay him or anything. He just like wanted to hang out with us. He just became like one of our friends. Like he bought his own beers when we went out drinking and stuff. You know, it was a good time.
Yeah, yeah. It was like I went to Jamaica for a wedding, and the married couple had been to the area in Jamaica 3 times previous to this. So they had friends. They had like, we landed and it was like, here are your scooters for the next 2 weeks, and make sure you stop by the house to see the family, and make sure you stop by here and this person says hi. And it was amazing, but it was so interesting. We, oh God, I just gapped out. We had the same bartender because we stayed on this little resort, and we had the same bartender every day. He showed up at 1 o'clock and he stayed until 1 o'clock at night when he shut the bar down. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's Jamaica, everybody's smoking weed, and the wedding was like in the middle of the trip. So basically it was all fun and games until the wedding. And then from the wedding after, the groom wasn't allowed out. Like, it's dinner, we're going home and having quiet time. You're my husband and you have to listen to me. So the last night of the trip, he was like, she's asleep with the kids. It's my last night in Jamaica. It's my night out. Like, let's party. Mm-hmm. Well, no one had any weed. So I went to one of the security guards at the resort and I was like, hey man, I need some smoke. And he's like, okay, how much? And I was like, I've got $10. He's like, great, no problem. Stay right here. So he leaves. He goes out to the parking lot. He comes back like 5 minutes later and he throws like an ounce at me.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, dude, I only gave you $10. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't need this much. What am I supposed to do with this? And he's like, smoke it. What do you mean are you supposed to do with it? So it was like, okay, here, groom, like, here's a little bit. Here, have your night out, smoke whatever you want. And then at the end of the night, I gave the rest of it to the bartender. Mm-hmm. And the bartender almost cried. Like, he was just like, why are you doing this? You've been so nice to me. Like, there was like 14 of us. So we were tipping him really well all week, but he was like, why would you do this? And I'm like, I'm going back to Canada tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with all of this. Like,
you don't want to go to jail because you fucking decide to bring some pot back from Jamaica.
Right? Like, oh my God. But it was just so funny because it's just like such a simple thing. And he's just like, oh my gosh, why would you be so nice to me? But it's because he's used to all these rich people just being like, I tipped you $1, now give me my drink. Like,
yeah.
So crazy. So.
I've never been to Jamaica. That's one place that I would love to go there.
Yeah, they're it's pretty chill. That's only like 1 of 2 times I ever actually stayed on a resort. But it was a really nice small resort. There's an area in Negril, so it's a 7-mile sand beach. So there's the same like musicians and buskers and salespeople that wander the beach every day, all day, and have for years. Mm-hmm. So there's this one guy, Donovan Dalrymple, awesome guitarist, but he wrote this song mocking this guy because one of the guys walks the beach and sells cigarettes and cigars. But he literally just walks the beach and goes, cigarettes, cigars, 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 space cake. And it's like, what?
What did he say at the end?
Space cake.
Space cake? What's that?
Yeah. Brownies made with weed and mushrooms.
Oh my God.
So this guitarist made this song called Cigarettes, Cigars, Cigars, Space Cake. Mm-hmm. So you've got the salesman wandering around singing it, and then you've got him wandering around and him singing it. And we're sitting there, and I watched this really old dude, this like really obese old man and his old lady wife. And he's like, I'll take 2 brownies. And the whole group of us are like, does he know? Like, does he actually know? Who cares? Let's watch this. And it was like an hour later, these 2 are like snow angeling in the sand and like living their best lives. And
that's awesome. That's crazy. Have you ever done mushrooms before?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it, or should we leave that? Leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that, I would say.
All right.
I love them, really. Mm-hmm. I really do.
I did them twice in Thailand. It was crazy. They're just selling shroom milkshakes. They're actually pretty good, considering.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I went to this thing called like the full moon party, where it was like 10,000 people on like a beach, It was gnarly.
Yeah. See, those are my kind of events.
hmm
That's yeah, that's my
It,
kind of stuff.
it was so cool. It was a crazy adventure. Um, so yeah, we've been talking for a while. I think that's good. Really
Yeah.
appreciate you doing this. Is there any like shout outs or anything you want to make at the end?
Uh, no. I mean, no. I don't know who I'd shout out to. What?
You can plug your stuff again. So go subscribe to Lacie on YouTube, everybody, please.
Yeah. Follow along. Make some
Yeah.
like especially with the Fast Forward Friday things, I keep telling people like suggest what you want to see.
hmm
Because half my problem is coming up with new ideas. So if people toss out new ideas, it gives me things to do that are outside of my usual. So
I gave you a suggestion. I want to see a ghost.
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Done. Done deal.
Awesome. Perfect.
Cool. All
Thanks.
right.
You're the
Thanks, Dab.
best.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye bye.